Today, experiencing a miscarriage feels like a lonely medical secret. You are left to process a profound grief entirely in isolation. But for most of human history, this isolation didn't exist. How did our ancient ancestors handle the sudden end of a pregnancy? Did they just brush it off as a harsh reality of primitive survival? The archaeological record suggests the exact opposite. Ancient humans never viewed pregnancy loss as a non-event. They recognized it as a profound tear in the tribe's fabric. Even when life ended before birth, it was given a physical space. To see how they coped, we must look at the earth. Archaeologists have uncovered highly intentional prehistoric fetal burials. Dating back tens of thousands of years, these graves show incredible care. The remains were often dusted with sacred, life-symbolizing red ochre. They were buried with delicate tokens, like carefully perforated seashells. These were not the actions of an indifferent people. They matched their internal grief with ceremonial labor. A mother never carried this heavy weight by herself. The entire tribe gathered to acknowledge what could have been. Today, we have traded this collective mourning for private sorrow. Let us look at how communities physically anchored this grief. In Paleolithic graves, some fetuses were buried with bird wings. Anthropologists believe this symbolized transitioning the unformed spirit. Burial required the community to completely halt their daily survival labor. In a harsh foraging economy, time was the ultimate statement of value. They chose the deepest, most protected cave chambers for these tiny graves. The back of the cave represented the warm womb of the earth. Soil analysis even reveals traces of wild spring flowers gathered for the site. These rituals were designed to aggressively protect the living mother. Ancient tribes knew that unexpressed grief could break a person's spirit. So, the community forced the grief out through public tokens. Mothers often received physical objects to hold their invisible transformation. She was granted a strict period of absolute physical rest. Other women absorbed her duties so she could heal safely. Physical recovery was managed with sophisticated local plant medicine. Tribes utilized targeted botanicals to safely stop postpartum bleeding. Herbal teas provided the earliest forms of uterine pain management. For millennia, this dual approach of ritual and herbalism saved lives. But as human civilization grew larger, our relationship with loss shifted. We began to categorize losses based strictly on economic utility. Welcome to the era of massive, indifferent empires. In ancient Egypt, miscarriage was tied directly to the afterlife. Fetuses were mummified with the exact same care as adults. King Tutankhamun's tomb contained coffins holding his two miscarried daughters. They believed these souls needed specific magical protection to transition. Ancient Egyptian medical papyri contain numerous recipes to prevent loss. Pregnant women wore specialized protective amulets to guard their health. However, in ancient Rome, the perspective took a cold turn. Under Roman law, a fetus wasn't a person until its first breath. Miscarriage was treated legally as a loss of male household property. The mother's emotional grief was heavily privatized and hidden away. This marked a dangerous historical shift from community to legalism. The supportive village network was rapidly replaced by institutional indifference. Women were expected to remain completely stoic about reproductive failure. The ancient tribal campfire for shared grief was thoroughly paved over. We forgot that grief requires public, shared space to dissolve. Humanity entered a long dark age of shame and taboo. By the Middle Ages, miscarriage was frequently blamed on maternal sin. Mothers carried the heavy, manufactured weight of theological guilt. The comforting communal circle had officially transformed into a judgment tribunal. Let us look at how women quietly kept the medicine alive. For centuries, reproductive health remained a secret among village women. Midwives passed down oral catalogues of plants to manage the womb. They used herbs like cramp bark to relax spasming muscles. They brewed specific tonics to prevent deadly post-loss internal infections. Long before modern surgery, these plants were a mother's defense. This empirical knowledge was tested over thousands of generation lines. Modern science confirms many of these traditional plants contain active compounds. Ancient women were sophisticated, highly practical botanists protecting their own. Their care treated the physical and emotional pain as one event. But during the witch trials, this female knowledge was heavily attacked. Midwifery was criminalized, and traditional botanical lineages were violently broken. Silently cut off from the natural world, women faced a new landscape. Women were isolated from the plants and communities that kept them safe. A massive wall of silence was built around early pregnancy loss. Miscarriage became a lonely failure to be hidden and forgotten quickly. We traded the comforting village for a cold modern assembly line. Mothers were left to navigate the emotional aftermath entirely alone. We excel at physical diagnostics but fail completely at emotional containment. The wisdom of the village has been buried beneath clinical protocol. Let us calculate the psychological cost of silencing this grief. To be clear, modern medical advances are a profound blessing. We have dramatically reduced maternal mortality through incredible sterile precision. These clinical interventions save physical lives every single day. We conquered the physical infections that once devastated ancestral camps. But physical comfort is not the same thing as emotional safety. By medicalizing miscarriage, we accidentally erased the vital social ritual. We expect grieving mothers to return to work immediately and silently. There is no public marker or tribal pause to validate their pain. Modern productivity demands speed, leaving no time for slow emotional healing. The societal rule to hide pregnancy early forces us to suffer secretly. Biologically, we are still the exact same creatures from the campfire. Our ancient neurology is hardwired to expect a supportive village presence. When the room remains empty, our brain interprets the silence as danger. We successfully insulated our bodies from the physical storms of nature. Yet we are drowning in an unprecedented wave of isolated grief. This is the modern tragedy, clinical safety completely stripped of soul. We kept the technology but lost the healing power of community. Behind every third window, a woman is processing a loss alone. A vast grid of separate rooms, holding sorrows never allowed aloud. How do we bring the village back into a fragmented world? Healing doesn't mean turning our backs on modern medical science. It means refusing to let clinical diagnostics define our emotional journey. It begins when we break the silence and speak our truth. We must intentionally create personal rituals to anchor the unborn's memory. Plant a tree, keep a token, or carve out physical space. When someone you know suffers a loss, do not look away. Show up with food, offer presents, and kill the isolation instantly. The deep sorrow of a miscarriage is never a shameful medical failure. It is a profound human experience connecting you to ancestors across time. You are walking a path trodden by history's bravest maternal souls. The ancient mothers who buried shells are reaching out to you. They remind us that every life, however brief, alters the tribe. We can heal the modern fracture by honoring these hidden stories. Stop letting a fast-paced society rush your natural architecture of grief. Give your mind the exact sacred pause our ancestors built out. Banish the industrial coldness from these deeply sacred human spaces. Give your ancient biology the validation it has been screaming for. The physical protection caves of the past are long gone, but the protective circle of human empathy can always be rebuilt. We never outgrew the campfire. We just forgot how to sit together.